Hello and good morning. It's Cherie from Big Notes Get Boats, and I hope you are having an amazing day wherever you are in the world. I'm here in Auckland, New Zealand, and I'm hoping you can hear and see me just fine. If you are watching today and you have any questions, please just let me know. I'm looking in the chat and I'll keep an eye on everything as we go through. But the purpose of today is to touch base on the last week of vocal tips that I have been delivering all over the socials about how to get gig fit. Real quick, the Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan are 30 tips you can do in under 30 minutes every single day over a 30-day period to kind of realign, like if you've got some big gigs coming up or there's a season change or you just want to refocus, get back on track with your practices, which was me. And I do create most of my resources for myself. I needed like a little calendar, a little checklist essentially that I could use to just refocus. There is all the things that you need to manage as a human and certainly as a creative. So this is the steps that I know have worked for me, and I've been a professional singer for over 27 years. Luckily here in Auckland, in New Zealand, we are in a great position to be able to have mass gatherings and live performances again. So I've been on a little bit of a dual tour with both the symphony show as a featured vocalist, and I've been doing backing vocals for LAB, which is just the best time ever. So I am popping in every Saturday morning at 10:30 usually to chat through something. And this week, this month, because we're focusing on the Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan, I'm going to talk about last week's tips. I'm going to rattle them off to you and give you some extra information about them. You can grab your very own Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan checklist using the link that's in the description. You'll get this is my little copy. It's so hard to see, but there you go. Look at that. So some of them, I've made notes on mine. Some of them, you get one that has like a calendar format and then a calendar format with little check boxes. So if you're OCD like me, you can check it off. Now, we are currently today on day 21. And so we're going to look back from day 15 to day 21. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the tips. So day 15 is a spotlight on having an exercise schedule. Now, I should really call it a movement plan. I think that's probably what I'll change it to one of these days, because it's just about moving your body. Increasing blood flow helps to engage your breathing muscles, your lungs, your larynx, and just helps to release any tension and stress as well too. So no matter where you are, what you're doing, it doesn't have to be a marathon. And like literally one of my clients is, Anna is running a marathon today. So no, that won't be me anytime in the near future, but I do really find it important to stretch my body. And I have a treadmill here at home and I will try to walk at least 15 minutes a day. It doesn't always happen. So I'll go for maybe 3 times a week. Some weeks it's once a week, but I will track my steps every single day. And I love my Fitbit. I've had this in various formations for about 10 years, 8 years maybe. And it tracks my sleep. It tells me, and at the moment, they've kind of had a really great upgrade of the software. So it will track your oxygen saturation, which is great and important for singers. It tracks my heart rate. I've done awesome fun tests at gigs to see how high my heart rate goes whilst I'm singing and not necessarily moving. So being active and singing is great for your cardiovascular system, but just a separate exercise schedule or movement plan that's focused on releasing tension and engaging all over your all over body muscles. Yoga is great as well. It's all about what allows the body to flow in the most functional and kind of day-to-day way possible. So I'm highly advocating some kind of movement. At the very least, it's stretching, right? Singer stretches, which was day 4. Day 16 is having a practice plan, like an exercise schedule, knowing when you want to practice and what you're going to do when you get you set that time aside to practice is really important. It helps to focus your energy more than anything, your energy. And, we're limited with energy. So focus that energy on the right things that matter. So what are your singing goals? And that was like day 2's action, was to figure out what it is that you really want to focus on in the next 30 days. And you'll be tracking it with a vocal journal. This is taking you next level to an actual formulated practice plan. I have a practice plan template that you can have, and I'll pop that link where you can download that in the description box as well. And it's just kind of like an ideal template scenario. You can modify it to however you want, but if you need guidance, it's going to tell you what steps you need to do. So it looks a little something like this. You will vocal journal, check in with your voice, and review your plan for your practice. Make sure that that is what you want to do. A session or something hasn't come in that you need to use the time for to maybe learn a song, which you can totally use as practice. And then you would check in with your voice and with your body, and that is through sirens and through singers stretches. Then you might do a posture check and a rag doll just to make sure alignment is on point. And then you would roll in with maybe some kind of vocal warm-up, and you can do this either through lightly singing through a song that you're going to be focusing on. I call it a song study. Or you might like to be focusing on vocalizing through vowels and scales, or syllables throughout scales, depending on what your focus is. You might be doing both, depending on how much time you've got. Then the most important thing is that you just note how your voice is feeling and how the practice actually went. And then you do a vocal warm down or a vocal cool down, and have some vocal rest if it's been a particularly intensive session. So that's a quick run through, but you can get that template as well as the vocal journal template as well. That is attached to that practice plan with the link in the description. And let me know how that goes. Day 17, I mentioned already, is a posture check. And that is just making sure that your alignment is in neutral position. Why I believe that's important is that it's hard to overlay any techniques, whether they're breath, voice quality, onset time, anything at all, if you haven't already got your structure, your foundation aligned. And so you don't need to stand with perfect posture or neutral posture when you're performing. This is more in the practice. It's like, okay, let me check in with ground zero and let me see if there's anything that might be making it harder for me to create an efficient sound. So like, are you hunched over? And like, you can even hear that my voice changes. Like if my chin moves down to my chest, you can kind of hear the change in the tonal quality. Or if I'm jutting my chin out forward, you can hear. So it's about aligning both your head and your neck, your upper body, and making sure that there is that neutrality to your spine as your foundation. And then you can overlay everything on top of that. And there is a video that you can see that where I show you how to check your posture in the Get Gig Fat 30-day action plan tutorials, which each of the little snippet video tutorials are linked, they're hyperlinked in the checklist. You can just click on that and go straight to it. What else? Number 18, day 18, I should say, is breath management. Check in with the power of your voice. This one is a tricky one because there's a lot of kind of counterintuitive information around it. I think what I want you to consider is observing not just one kind of breath, but always asking yourself, can I do this with less breath? Do I need a little bit more air pressure? Like just glancing over how you're doing your breath management or how you're managing breath for singing currently. What I see very often is just one breath for every note, for every phrase, for every voice quality, no matter how long, how short, how intensive or not. And that's not allowing you to adapt both your effort levels, but also to efficiently produce sound. Because if you're just throwing, I call it throw the kitchen sink at singing. If you're just throwing the kitchen sink at everything and hoping, or throwing something on the wall and just hoping it's going to stick with the same intensity, you don't have that contrast, that color, and you're certainly not singing in the most efficient way. So here's something I'd love you to try to do. Try speaking on a phrase like, "Hi, my name is Cherie and I'm having a great day," on whatever normal breath you would usually use to prepare for singing. So you'd go, "Hi, my name is Cherie and I'm having a really good day." And maybe make it a little bit longer than that. Then I'd love you to take half the breath away. So take your normal breath to prepare. Let half the air out. "Hi, my name is Cherie and I'm having a really good day." And then think about how it feels. Firstly, the experiment is based on the fact that you did the same thing, you said the same phrase with half the amount of air. And what we often see is that it takes quite a lot of effort and tension in your throat to hold back that excess air pressure that's waiting in the background to be used. Sometimes you don't even use it. I used to find myself doing this thing where I'd sing a phrase and I'd be like, la, 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 and then I'd be letting all this air out. So the idea of breath management is allowing your mind to think it is okay to test how much breath is actually needed for you individually. Personalize that breath by testing, by seeing how much you actually need. It's really important to always roll it back, so half air out, and then maybe adjust, or maybe I need a little bit more than that, but just make it a constant. You're constantly reviewing the management process based on what is being met on the way out, so what you're asking your voice to do. So it's great to check in with your breath management. There are some exercises for not necessarily strengthening your breath management, but engaging in awareness of what you can do, which is, and I showed you that one exercise of half air out. That's gold, that one. Day 19 is vocal warm-ups. Now, with that practice plan, as I mentioned, having a great vocal warm-up is really important. However, same thing with the breath. There is not one size fits all. So there are lots of variables. It can be, how long does it take you personally to warm up? Some people are 10 minutes, some people are 20 minutes. It might also change on the day, depending on some of those physical factors that we have. Did we get enough sleep? Are we hydrated enough? Have we got any nutritional or medication elements that are dehydrating us or playing with our body, creating excess mucus? So same thing like with the breath. We need to be able to gauge day to day, like find your rubric, find your ground zero, but then always adapt based on how you're feeling on the day and based on an actual check-in with your voice. So when you're sirening, that's a great way of like, oh, I'm a bit clunky. I might just slightly elongate my warm-up today. So make it very, very pliable. And now, I feel that the best way to warm up your voice is to sing the songs that you're about to perform or sing or practice, but at 50%. So dulling the consonants, it's in a still voice training technique called myroning, which is very lightly singing through the songs without articulation. So you dull the consonants. And you can, in fact, let me show you. So if I was to sing happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. So if I was myroning or dulling the consonants or taking it down to 50%, I would say, same thing. My larynx is still moving, but I'm not projecting. And so that allows my larynx to coordinate accordingly and everything, all the musculature to warm up, but I'm not in performance mode and therefore leaving my best voice in the rehearsal, practice, or warm-up room. This is a great tool, but I also want you to consider vocalizing through scales. And that's more both ear training, agility, and coordination. So everything serves its purpose. But if we're talking about primary function of warming up your voice as effectively as possible for the task at hand, I would say sing through the songs at 50%. You could hum through them. You could siren through them. You could lip trill through them. If you're good with straw work, if you've done any straw work, you could use your straw and sing through the song. It's like using a straw in water, and the straw size does matter. So look into that if you are interested in straw work. But yeah, the most important thing is that you feel ready to engage in your practice or your performance and not tired. So please look at everything that you've done during the day and let that inform how you might do a vocal warm-up. Now, day 20 is a silent giggle. This is such a cool one. The human body is amazing. Now, the larynx is a valve primarily designed for allowing food and water down into our esophagus and into our stomach, or through our trachea, allowing air to move into our lungs, in and out of our lungs. And our vocal folds come together and stay together and vibrate and make sound. Those are the true vocal folds. Amazingly, at the top, there's these little side vocal folds called the false vocal folds that kind of act like a protective mechanism of the true vocal folds. And anytime there's any perceived effort, they kind of shut over the true vocal folds and they protect that valve, that protect the larynx. A primal emergency might be giving birth, where you're having to build up some air pressure and you're bearing down, picking up something heavy, coughing, sneezing, pushing out a poo, keeping it classy. Anything where you're having to get a bit of effort and then release the pressure. That now, singing is not an emergency. So when we find ourselves engaging those false vocal folds in an unintentional way, that's what I was going to try to say, because there's no right or wrong. Like, you can totally use false vocal fold control as a part of your stylistic choice. You can add a little grit to your singing if you want, but you have to understand what muscles are actually working and how that's going to impact the overall singing approach. Is it going to cause extra tension? Do you have to roll any kind of anchoring or support in as you're doing it? There's lots of factors to consider. It's more whether you're intentional or unintentional about it. And if you're just tensing up and then trying to sing through that, trying to let that sound wave move through it, you get this distortion unintentionally, and then everything else adjusts in the negative. So not in the way that we were talking about before, where you roll in the support mechanisms of anchoring and stabilization, but more like, eek, I'm not getting the sound that I want, push more air. And then there's this follow-on effect that is very tension-centric and not freeing or not embellishing the vocal delivery that you're wanting to give. It's holding it back. So the cool thing about the human body is that whilst those primal elements trigger false vocal fold constriction, the primal activity of smiling or laughter actually releases or retracts the false vocal folds, which is the coolest thing ever. But of course, if you're singing a song that has some has some intensity, you don't want to be laughing throughout the song when a high note comes. So the option is a silent giggle. And that is just feeling the sensation of a lateral spread. I like the idea of like a spread at the base of your tongue. And it helps to retract and move those false vocal folds out the way. So you're like, now I'm doing it a little bit with a giggle sound and dramatic effect with my face, but over time, you will learn to not need those cues because it is essentially like extraneous muscular tension that you don't want in there, but so you can see and hear what I'm doing. It's like this. And I feel this sensation of a lateral spread. Now, there is an exercise that I give my students to do check, because I think everything that you do should be able to do it in like instantly. And you can block your ears and listen to your breath moving in and out without performing the silent giggle. And you might hear some breath here. And then if you do your silent giggle and breathe again whilst your ears are blocked, you should hear a lot less air. And that's because you're moving those false vocal folds out the way, and then the air isn't brushing against them, and you don't hear that kind of white noise, air pressure, air moving against the false vocal folds. That is a great tool when you do have high intensity singing, like belting, you would want to be sure to be engaging that. But you might also want to learn to engage it in your speaking voice so that you are, and this is something that I'm working on. I work on with my voice trainer, a lot of speaking voice mindfulness and getting a clear, clean tone where none of the extras that don't need to be in there aren't rolling in. So silent giggle is a biggie for me, and it really helps me to allow a free and clear sound without any tension rolling in. So that is why I put that guy there, because it's a biggie and it really helps. Try that exercise and let me know what you think. That is this is a good week this week. This is where the rubber meets the road. These are all the really solid singing techniques that I remind myself to engage with to really build my singing ability and in turn my confidence. So all of these could be like little tricks and tips that you have. I call it a singer's toolkit in your singer's toolkit. And it means that you're always able to troubleshoot for yourself. And that's where the confidence comes. Preaching. Okay. Last but not least, aptly, day 21, which is today's day, singing techniques. This is just scratching the surface. So when you want to develop your voice further and build that confidence and get gig fit, check in with the vocal coach. If you want to have a chat with me, you can go to bignotesgetvotes.com, have a look at the front page. My homepage gives all the information about my vocal coaching, and you can book in a time to have an intro chat with me. And that's a chance for us to just kind of figure out, what do you want to work on? And can I help you with that? Then I also get you to fill in an artist questionnaire, which tells me a little bit about what you're doing currently, what your singing frustrations are, where you're heading, and what you're focusing on. And then we make a plan, a vocal development plan. And I like to focus on whatever you need and want the most on the day or first, whatever's going to make you feel more confident in your singing. But there are lots of little tips that you can always kind of overlay as we're workshopping songs or as we're developing or going through our vocal coaching together vocal coaching journey. And that leads me, because that's the 7 days, that leads me, in fact, I'll put the intro chat link into the description box here as well too. So if you want to have a chat with me, you can do it. Now I'm in Auckland, New Zealand. So the times are in New Zealand time, but you can change the calendar to suit your time zone. And as I mentioned, I get my artists to fill out an artist questionnaire. And so at the end of the last few weeks, what I've been doing and what I'm going to continue to do is answer some of the questions that they have written in our artist questionnaire before we started working together. And so I've worked with hundreds of artists, so I have a ton of this information. And I think it's really helpful. One of the things we don't do often is share with each other what our frustrations are as singers, kind of front a little bit. And this opportunity is hopefully going to open the door to maybe clearing out some frustrations that you might have with your voice. So today's question that I've taken from that very artist questionnaire is, so I asked them, one of the questions is I say, what is your biggest singing frustration? What do you find most frustrating about singing? And one of the artists said, not trying hard enough when I really know I want to. And I thought that's a really good one. So it feeds into a couple of things, or we can feed into that from a couple of things. The first thing is having a why, knowing why you want to be a creative and why you want to do what you want to do in music, knowing what your place is, or just knowing that there is space for you, I think can sometimes help you to step into that and own your own creative journey. This is not about anybody else. No matter, and people will talk, people will say whatever they're going to say, no matter how good you are. So you just have to be, this is where I am today. What can I do today to move myself forward along my vocal development, my creative journey. And it's not like, oh my God, there's so many things I need to do. I need to learn how to play piano, I need to learn music theory, I need to sing better. Yes, there are all the things, but that overwhelm comes from looking at all the things and just kind of going, just break it down. So daily habits is my answer to that question. When you really want to try hard, but you just don't feel like you're doing it, make it a wee bit smaller. So 1% increments are the change that happen. Like if you just, they're cumulative, right? So if you do something like the Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan, we're just breaking it down to one thing each day. That's a great place to start. So you can grab the checklist and start off by forming these sort of habits so that even if it feels like you're not trying hard enough, just hitting the mark, just one thing each day over time, that little 1% is accumulative, and you end up feeling much more confident about your place in things because you know you're doing something every single day. You are trying hard enough. It doesn't have to be a gauge of like, wow, I worked for 10 hours on my singing. No. Did you do one thing every single day that moved you forward as a singer? That's what matters. And that's what I deem to be trying hard enough. I know that's it's a strange phrase, but as long as you're consistent, like really, honestly, consistency is the secret. If you're looking for like a magic bullet or a secret to success, consistency is the secret. So whether you are practicing for 5 minutes a day consistently or more than that, the point is that the trying hard is actually just in the keeping going. It's not defined by hard enough. Yeah, of course, there's going to be days when you're meant to be practicing, excuse me, you're meant to be practicing or meant to be doing something and you're just like, do you know what? I'm just going to watch Netflix all day. I get it. We're human. The point is find out what your basic daily 1% habits, I call them daily vocal care habits because vocal health is everything. But then you might have practice habits, and then you might have polish habits or performance habits. And my sort of framework is prepare, and that's your daily vocal care habits and any planning around what you might need to do, mindset as well, your practice habits, your polish habits, and that's your song studies and getting ready for your performance, and then your performance habits, whatever that looks like to you. Maybe you're just taking 5 minutes each day to check in with each of those. And a performance habit might be, I need to figure out what I'm wearing. Like, that's okay. The performance habit might be, I need to work out with my management of my team where and when I can warm up and have that written into my contract or into my rider so that the people around me know how important it is that I have this, there are so many little things that you can do that as long as you're doing something each day, you are working hard enough. If you feel that the progress isn't moving fast enough, maybe you can up it to 2 things a day. But consistency is your secret to success. That's my quote of the day. So remember, if you feel like you're not trying hard enough when you know you want to, just check in with yourself. Figure out what it is that you really need to focus on first. If you need help, use the checklists, and I have a million. You can go to bignotesgetvotes.com, and that homepage has access to everything. Book in for a chat with me and let me know if any of today has helped you. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification button if you're here on YouTube. And if you're on Facebook watching, jump over to YouTube and hit the subscribe and the notification, or make sure you like the Big Notes Get Votes page. On YouTube, I will release videos more often. And if you hit the notification button, you'll find out about them. But consistently, see what I did there? On a Saturday morning at 10:30, I'll be coming back in here to have a chat about the week that's been, certainly while we're in the Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan. But every week I will be answering a question that has been posed to me, singing related, frustration, performance, anything. So I hope to see you back here next Saturday at 10:30 New Zealand Standard Time. Have a great day. Go get the Gig Fit 30 action plan.